right, hello everybody, and welcome back to some more Mania for Heat World Cup 2025 action. We've just got one more thing to get through for this wonderful semifinals weekend, and that is going to be the Finals Mappool Showcase. We'll showcase the maps that are going to be used for the matches in the following weekend for Finals round. As I said, I will be one of your commentators for this showcase, Toph Daddy, joined here by Mint. How's it going?
Yes, hello! We're back with another pool, another week, another pool. I'm really excited about this one. Let's just jump straight into it.
Absolutely, I couldn't have said it better myself. We get to show off how difficult things are going to start getting here with our first map in the pool once it shows up.
Yeah, absolutely. This first map is a real treat. I'll tell you that much. This one is Sugar 2 by Pope Gadget. It's our stream pick, but you'll notice kind of off the bat that this stream pick is not like the others. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I'm already getting a little bit weirded out by the BPM counters. It looks like there's going to be a little bit of shifting BPM through this, as you might expect from a Pope Gadget map. But starting out on, actually, something else I noticed, 3.5 minutes for this stream chart. So might be a little bit of a stamina monster depending on how this goes.
Absolutely, and I mean, you'll also notice the length. It's 3 minutes and 38 seconds. That is really long for a stream pick, you'll notice. But what really is happening here is that there's a lot of breaks, but when the streams show up, they show up for a very, very long time, as you saw earlier. That was a very steady, sustained stream of about 370 BPM.
Yeah, 370 BPM. I think pretty expected for this round at this point. Maybe even could have expected a little faster, but more streams to come. And those patterns also a little bit more on the straightforward side. Didn't have too much in the way of like implied mini jacks. Same thing goes with this next stream that's coming in. Looks about the same speed, but some of these patterns, despite not really having any of those implicit mini jacks, very repetitive. Oh, never mind. There are a couple there with the staircase patterns.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
A little bit awkward.
Despite its rolly appearance, it's really tricky because of the way that it shifts between like the hand. It's really tricky.
Yeah. What I'm noticing from a lot of the streams is that it does a lot of the kind of repeated 3-note rolls when it goes into those sections, which are significantly harder than regular rolls, and it kind of looks like you can cheese them, and in a way you can. And when it comes to 370 BPM, I think a lot of players might feel more comfortable trying to sort of cheese them. But when it's that much faster, it's a lot harder to coordinate that kind of jump drill-esque motion, and almost feels better just to not try that kind of thing and play it normally.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing this sort of like longer break section here. We're getting right back into it here. Like it really is just a matter of like these sections right here. This is what really counts for this one. It's these sort of extended sections. This is the longest section of the streams that I think so far we've seen. I think this is going to be sort of the bulk of the difficulty because of how long it goes on for.
Yeah, definitely going to be a choke point for many players, I think. Just, I said there's a potential for stamina issues, and looking at how isolated the streams are in general, I don't think stamina is going to be a big issue for any of the 6 teams remaining.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that last stream can certainly do a number on you.
Yeah, for sure. And this last bit, like with the streams, like continuously, like it is really just like it really tests your stream consistency. And these rolly patterns, it just like it throws everything at you for a stream pick. And considering its length, it really is a very misleading pick. It goes by really quickly.
Yeah, honestly, absolutely. It honestly did not feel like 3.5 minutes just watching that. It felt more streamlined. It felt more like a 2-minute map. But that is going to be it for our speed map here. Moving on to our second rice pick, going to be our speed jump stream pick, Full Steam Vengeance, a map by Lemon Guy, and 288 BPM. We're picking up the pace a little bit.
Yeah, you'll notice, like, right off the bat, last year's finals jump stream was 280 BPM. We're raising the stakes here. But I will say that it is not as, like, fully focused on jumping. Like, there's, like, sustained jump stream sections for sure in this one, but you'll notice that they are a lot shorter, I think.
Yes, we
and
are
you also
seeing,
find a lot of bursts inside.
Yeah, shorter, more isolated jump stream sections. Got a few bursts, like you said. There's also a few shorter bursts of like 145 BPM jacks, which I think if you're capable of playing 288 BPM jump stream, 145 BPM jacks isn't going to be that big of a deal, but they are still there and serve to kind of mess up the flow that you normally get on a map like this, and can certainly cause issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, you really have to watch out for those jacks, and we had a little section right there, the 1/3s. That is definitely something that could trip you up if you're not careful. If you're thinking like, hey, this pick it's just jump stream. What could go wrong? That could go wrong. You really need to watch out for those sorts of things.
Yeah. Also, something that we kind of didn't mention is a lot of those jack transitions. I mentioned the 145 BPM ones, but there's also some 1/3 glut transitions in the middle of all of this. You see those mini jacks there being at 1/3, and those are certainly not trivial.
Absolutely. They're actually like fairly difficult as transitions come for jump stream maps.
Yeah, absolutely. But jump. Oh my goodness!
The trill right there. I was about to mention.
Full transparency, I'm kind of sight reading this pool. I did not know that existed. 2 triple jacks as well. This is a little bit of an unorthodox jump stream pick, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely.
More of the glut transitions and some bursts, as you would expect from a Lemon Guy map, but still has the expected 280. Whoa!
That one's 1/6. I think that's the only one that's in the chart.
Really I was just gonna say classic Lemon Guy patterns, and then a 1/6 staircase showed up in the middle of it, and that just confused me a little bit.
Yeah. And yeah, that was Full Steam Vengeance. Then we're going straight into race 3, which is Surface Tension 1.05. Is not by High. This one I would say more sustained. You definitely have like longer stretches of jump stream patterns, but you also get like there's like a guitar solo, and then there's like some other stuff. You'll see when that comes up. But already we're seeing like super one-hand trilly sort of patterns. Like they're just all over the place. You can't. Any moment that you look at the chart, you'll see a one-handed trill somewhere on the screen. Yeah, definitely
kind of feels apt for having seen Finals map in the previous rounds. With these one-hand trill focus, those one-hand trills are going to be very stamina draining. On top of it, 277 BPM. With the extended streams in general, you get a couple breaks, but those anchors and O-Trill focus is going to really beat down your stamina.
Absolutely. I mean, we're just seeing sort of like I don't know how to describe like the one-handed, like, it's difficult to describe, I'm sorry, like the way that the patterning like kind of disperses the, like, on one hand it's like jacks, and then the other hand is like trills. Like High Lotto does that a lot. And I think Lemon Guy also does that a lot in
yes,
maps.
I was actually going to say the same thing, is that that kind of focus on one hand, just trilly structures in general kind of match that kind of thing. And having, Lemon Guy being the speed jump stream pick, you're going to see a lot of that just from these 2 jump stream picks. The other part of it too is that, like, you mentioned that having to do like basically jack patterns and a trill on the outside isn't necessarily going to be You give like one hand a break at a time, but it almost feels like a polyrhythm type thing. Obviously, it's not, but it has a weird mismatch with your hands that is constantly shifting.
That's a good descriptor. I think like it feels like a polyrhythm, even though it's like just because the way that you're doing very different things on each hand, for sure. And it switches all the time as well, so I think that also it definitely ties into that. Well, we're getting actual polyrhythms here.
Right, yeah. The thing that you mentioned it too is that the one-hand trills switch hands pretty much constantly. You can see in those patterns it'll go right, left, right there, and it'll do it really fast, which I've said this before. Broken jump stream can often be more stamina draining if done in a certain way. And this kind of structure of jump stream makes it almost feel like you're playing two different maps on each hand, and it's we're getting the guitar solo here. I just want to focus on that real quick, like just the speed of the bursts and the mini jacks here. These streams are this part is incredibly difficult right here. Yeah, a little bit rude to change the structure of the map three-quarters of the way through when seeing basically all one-hand trill-based jump stream. But something important to note about this is that we have the one break early on, and you get small reprieves, like one measure long. But for the most part, this just doesn't really give you a break. It is packed to the brim, and at 4 minutes long with 277 BPM at its base, with those changes in structure, this is just brutal.
Yeah, and you're seeing the anchors getting longer and longer, but also seeing back with the sort of jump stream sort of stuff with the guitar going on. I mean, this map gets just more and more intense as it goes on.
Yeah, it absolutely does, and the one-hand trill motif does come back in between all of the bursts in the middle of it, and as I mentioned, no real breaks, just gives it to you for the whole time up until the end, on top of an OD of 8.2, so that accuracy is going to be very important on a map like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And while that was Rice 3, I guess it's about time for Rice 4. And I mean, some of you in the chat were actually mentioning this song somehow, even though there's no clue to this being in the pool at all. This is Korjak, this is Berserk, but Forces. This is Forces, not... It's from Berserk. A map by Guden. This song it's a Susumu Hirasawa song. It's used on 1.3, 156 BPM. You'll notice that we are increasing the BPM of the Korjaks really, really slowly, but these patterns are absurd. You'll notice very quickly.
Yeah, they definitely look that way. I was surprised to see it being a little bit on the slower side. You do see some very extended jacks, though. Right now, just seeing mostly 3-note jack transitions and then a few 4-note jacks, plus a few bursts. But
I was about 5-note jacks in the chorus right here.
I was about to say I expect those jack lengths to increase quite a bit.
Yeah, it's very control-heavy sort of patterns. You'll notice that they're on the same hand as the long jack. There were some notes on the same hand, on the opposite finger. But that sort of stuff is the really the essence of the control that we're trying to test for this Korjak thing. And as well as the Grand Final Korjak thing, which is, you'll see that next week.
Yeah, we don't need to worry about Grand Finals yet. Only 3 of the teams left to worry about it, and we already know 2 of them.
For sure.
But for now, just going through this, another map where no real reprieves throughout the chart, and the chorus comes back, longer jacks do come back, the density increases with those quads coming around. I did want to mention also, you said control with a lot of the patterns, and I think something that emphasizes that requirement are some of those 1/6 bursts in the middle of the jack patterns, because it requires you, because I think when it comes to chord jacks, a lot of players will almost just focus super hard on getting the chord jacks right and do the wrist jack motion, but these bursts in the middle of that really force you to pay attention to the patterns that are going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, That's really all there is to say about this one. It is really tricky. And before we get into the tech slots, I do want to explain something because some of you have already pointed out in the chat that this is a slightly larger pool than quarters and semis. So we're adding 2 picks, which will be Rice 8 and Hybrid 4. What's really happening is more like we're inserting Rice 7 in between Rice 6 and Rice 8. And that's going to be sort of our tech wildcard. So Rice 8 is going to be our heavy tech map, just as Rice 7 was before. But Rice 7 is going to be just sort of balancing out like the other tech slots for Rice 5 and Rice 6. So it's kind of a wild card. So we'll see that come into play very, very shortly. Let's just get into the Rice tech picks right now. This is going to be the Island 1.35 by Shoegazer.
Yeah, I think a pretty recognizable pick to some players, certainly a few who are still left in the tournament. But this map just primarily, it kind of transitions between bursts and jack patterns. I think the jacks are a little bit slow enough on the tech side that they're not too big of a deal. It really is just about like the basically 400 BPM burst throughout this and transitioning between the motions as it goes.
Yeah, and I mean, already seeing some reactions to this. I mean, we're very sure that this was a recognizable pick, and I guess this confirms it for sure. We're seeing these sorts of like dumpy little bursts and like 3-note long jacks, very focused on that sort of motif in the map for sure. And I think that's kind of the big idea of this map.
Yeah, the structure doesn't change too much throughout it. We get a little bit of a break here, but the second half does have a slight mix-up in the transition where it introduced some 1/3 dense jack patterns to kind of throw off the motion, but you see the same burst patterns in the end as well. You just have to also add on those 1/3 jack patterns to kind of make sure that you're still keeping up with it, right? It's just a little bit of an insert that doesn't ruin, I shouldn't say that, but messes things up a little bit in an unexpected way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're getting into this sort of like 1/3 section. I mean, it really is just sort of the same structure, but like so kind of like it kind of just interrupts it, I would say. And we're getting right back into what we're kind of used to from the first half.
Yeah, you see some similar patterns, those one-hand trill patterns coming back from the intro, just adding those 1/3 as well. But this is really where those bursts start to really pick up. You can see them actually changing snappings in the middle of the bursts as well, which could prove to be a little bit of an accuracy challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. This is very, very, very tricky to sort of be able to handle accurately. But yeah, I mean, this map is relatively short, all things considered. And I mean, what really is there left to say?
Yeah, not too much, but that's going to open up our tech pool. Going to move into Rice 6, and this is going to be VTuber song Hoshimachi Suisei's Wicked featuring Mori Calliope. And this is going to be your classic kind of dumpy tech pick. And we've had a bunch of them so far this tournament. Nothing people haven't seen before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have been really looking forward to Mori Calliope's debut in SWC. And this is pretty fitting of a map for that. We have this sort of like, I guess like mini jack glut sort of like base with some really, really tricky streams. Like, and those one-handed trills, as you saw earlier, sort of like anchory sort of patterns. This one's really, really interesting, and like it's just, I guess you could say it is just kind of like the previous Geku Show Infinity kind of scaled up a little bit, but it definitely brings some new things to the table, like those little 1/6 jacks. Like, these are really interesting to sort of play through.
Yeah, those mini jacks are brutally fast. Something else that I do want to point out about this is what I'm noticing in the choruses is that like you have the anchory patterns and the one-hand trills, but what I'm noticing is that it almost feels like you're anchoring on your entire hand at a time. So it'll do like these really difficult trill patterns on one hand while slowing down on the other. We saw this kind of come up earlier on with our Rice 3, where you're kind of doing a lot with one hand at a time and putting a lot of pressure on the hand, and then having to transition back into normal play, and this map definitely does that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this isn't going to be the last we'll see of Mochi Maki Suisei, but with that being said, like, we're getting into some break section here. This map is kind of in the medium length region of where I put things like 2 minutes 45. That's like pretty average for maybe on the long side, especially for a dump pick. But this break definitely kind of compensates for that. But as we're building up towards the ending, we're just gonna kind of get like sort of the same sort of idea introduced back again, and yeah, getting some more of these like just more dump. It's anime dump. Yeah.
Well, not quite anime dump.
Not anime, but like I mean, it's the same.
VTuber dump. We had a bunch of VTuber dump.
It's the spirit of anime dump.
Yes, that is true. A little bit of a reprieve, but at this point it doesn't really matter because the chart's over. But that'll be our dumpy tech pick, and we've got kind of something in this a little bit similar coming up, but it definitely approaches it in a different way for Race.
Yeah, I would say like okay, so this is kind of our wildcard slot. The reason that this map is as like the way that it is because like it how do I explain it? It's like not glut dump, but also transitions between like rolly patterns and trilly patterns. This is Abandoned Shrine Party by Metallic Brown. The main focus of the map, in my opinion, is sort of the stop and go motion and the transition between rolly patterns and trilly patterns. As we're seeing, those trilly patterns really interrupt your flow of the patterns, and that's something that you really have to watch out for the entire map.
Yeah, I'd almost describe these patterns as like, it's similar to a broken jump stream pick, which we would normally see in a tech pool like this, but this one's going to be broken bursts in a way. So it has a similar kind of feel to Rice 6, but definitely pushes it in a different direction, focusing particularly on the bursts instead of kind of a continuous dumpy structure. Of course, I should introduce the map, Seismic's Abandoned Shrine Party by Metallic Brown. Haven't said that yet, but we kind of got most of the notes about how this feels, and definitely has a different play style and some very extended bursts as we're seeing here.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you will see this and they're like, hey, this is just a dump map. Like, but like, compare this to the previous map, and you'll see that there's a world of difference there, and it really just like it really goes to show how versatile the dump slot, or not slot, but like the dump category is really.
Absolutely, we got kind of biased patterns there, going from right to left, a big jump trill, and those bursts just continue, some fast trills, and another map that's kind of on the longer side, 3 minutes long, and keeping this up without any major breaks is definitely going to be difficult. Not too difficult on the accuracy side with just an OD8, but still not going to be super comfortable if you're... With how these patterns are structured, it's almost like one-hand or two-hand trilly. I like to say that these patterns are basically two-hand jump trill streams in a way.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that makes them a lot harder to get good accuracy on because of that structure.
For sure, and like as you said with the length, 3 minutes 8 seconds, it does come up quite on the long side, and I'd say that the difficulty kind of justifies that this is probably easier to act than the other techniques for sure.
Also, it's finals. We've got. Yeah, I think it's important to make sure that consistency is key, especially when maps get as difficult as we're seeing them. Which I mean,
this is really all about consistency.
Yeah, and it shows with how long this rice map pool is in general. I think we've seen 3 or 4 maps already above 3 minutes long.
I think so, yeah.
Or like
It-
2 minutes
yeah.
45 and up is like 4 of the 7 maps we've seen so far.
And yeah, with that being said, let's just get right into the last tech pick. These are heavy tech picks, sort of the mini jack kind of. I don't know how to describe this one, honestly.
The return of Phil? I haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not a custom, so definitely some shocking things about this one is that I mean it's 3 minutes and also it's really tricky, and it's OD 8.5, so that's definitely something to watch out for.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned heavy tech. Very clear from the get-go that this is going to be quite heavy. 218 BPM with a large focus on that mini jack-based structure. A few bursts, but the bursts aren't as important as making sure that you keep strong on those glut patterns throughout the map. Also, worth noting, another map above 3 minutes long. So we are really pushing that length, and a long jack there just to round it out.
Just transitioning in and out of the long jacks, the long jump trilly rolls, that I think is probably one of the most difficult parts about this map. You definitely really have to watch out for those sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily, you get quite a long break there, no notes at all, just to kind of get your bearings back. But despite that, you're not really going to get too much room to make mistakes. It just pushes you right back in, and another long jack, but on the opposite hand, so you can't even mirror it.
Yup. So, I mean, it really is, it just throws everything at you at this point. You really have, like, again, this sort of like mini jack control kind of idea, like 3-note jacks and the long jacks, the bursts and everything. It really just is like the epitome of the sort of heavy tech style that we've come to know and love here in vv2566567698. The stop and go also doesn't help. It's really difficult to sort of maintain these sorts of patterns. You get constant breaks, but like it doesn't do anything. Like these are patterns that are like really difficult, like physically and to hit accurately. So like, well, what are the breaks gonna do?
Well, it's kind of funny too, because when you say that, because when I was a player, like doing this constantly, I always felt like when jack heavy, or I guess glut heavy tech picks came up, I'd rather them be more constant, because having to stop the motion of doing my really fast jacks gives my hands a little too much time to relax, and then I can't get back into it as effectively.
Yeah, for sure, and this map I think tests that to the fullest extent that it can, and it just, I mean, some of these patterns are just so absurdly tricky, and they come right after like some really like, and I mean they're short breaks in the grand scheme of things, but in the moment it feels like an eternity.
Yeah, it absolutely does, especially for your hands. Like, I am already getting flashbacks to my hand, like, kind of removing the numbness out of it. It just doesn't work too well. But that's going to close out our rice pool, and we'll be able to...
Yeah, no more rice, yeah.
We'll move into our first of now 4 hybrids, like you mentioned. And this one, a familiar song, and an expected kind of song, I think, for this. 270 BPM, and this is going to be our more straightforward hybrid pick here. Following tradition so far in this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this one is a little bit difficult to pinpoint because it is kind of different from other hybrid ones in the sense that it's not really like focused on like broken jump stream LN density kind of things, like LN speed. It's more just like, I mean, you're seeing it right now. It's like kind of like this sort of like it is still fairly straightforward high BPM sort of stuff, but I mean, not really seeing much of that broken jump stream kind of idea.
Yeah, a lot of pretty heavy jack focus on this so far. The jack speed not too heavy, but when the LNs start coming in like they do here, especially with those jump stream bursts, it's gonna start throwing you a little bit off guard, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. The jump stream bursts, they really need to have a lot of control for these patterns. And being able to transition in and out of those patterns. It is probably one of the more difficult elements of this map.
Absolutely. Get that first guy out of the way where the LNs kind of become a little bit more dense, and a break with some not trivial LNs, but certainly easier than what we were seeing before. And we're just about halfway through, so, I mean, you can obviously tell, a cut version of the Villain Virus song. And we get a cut right to the end, to the main section, or I guess the main guy section of the song as the viewers would know it. And the jump stream transition comes around as we get into what is arguably the hardest part with some very dense long notes.
Yeah, absolutely. This is really where the long note difficulty peaks in this map right here. And we get a little bit of a rice jump stream section at the end to wrap it all up. I think we're just about to approach that. And here it is.
Yeah, really dense jump stream. 273 BPM, certainly slower than what we saw in the Rice Pool for that jump stream pick, but a few inundated bursts are going to cause a few problems, but still nothing to write home about. A little bit difficult, especially after the intense stamina that's going to be needed for the earlier sections.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Villain Virus by Camellia, like it's just like a song that everyone probably knows at this point within the Mania 4K scene, and it's kind of the rhythm game scene broadly. But here's another song that you may be familiar with as someone who, I guess, has been in the 4K scene for a while now. This is Shadows of Pax.
I love Tachyon Dan. It's my favorite.
Yeah, okay. So this one. It's hard to sort of like wrap your head around. Like, in my opinion, like it's very different from previous Hybrid 2s in the sense that, how would you say it? It is very, it's not as. Turn up the bass. Okay, the long jacks. We're here. The long jacks. I've stalled long enough. Okay, we're getting to the meat of the chart right here. This is it.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it's like if the Tachyon Shadow of Caps was hybridized. I think that's really what it looks like.
Yeah, okay, so just to clarify, the previous map was a collab between Hytex and Recon, previously known as GB Rig. This is a map that is a collab between me and Mysterion. Mysterion is doing this sort of like long jack section right here. And I think the contrast really speaks well in this chart, and that the sort of idea of like this being kind of like Danza Merdason but on steroids, I think is a pretty apt descriptor for this map right here. We're seeing more of the return to the shield that we usually see in the second half of these sorts of Camellia charts, and we're getting right into it right here. Just sort of the same kind of idea that you kind of expect.
Yeah, you mentioned Danza Merdason, and I think that's an apt description. You saw the beginning of, or the first half of it being largely rice focused with those long jacks and bursts, and I think that's kind of similar to how Danza Mer was structured. And now this ending section going to be largely about the glut LN pattern. Same thing with what we saw from Danza Mer. So it's kind of a spiritual successor and literal successor in this tournament for that map. Has the same kind of structure, and I think for that reason, I think it's going to actually be maybe avoided a little bit. This is the type of map that is so difficult to full combo that the consistency is not going to be there, I think, for most teams, especially with those long jacks, especially on the outside columns. Just brutal, and I would be surprised to see anyone first pick this weekend.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen, frankly. I mean, but you never know with the other hybrids. This might turn out to be the easier pick, but I don't think so.
Easier, I don't think that's true.
This is probably the hardest hybrid out of the four. Just to be clear.
It's so chokeable. It's just it'll be interesting to see how players approach this. Certainly, potentially a ban opportunity for some teams, but one way or another, that's going to be Hybrid 2. And we'll be able to move into Hybrid 3. And another familiar pick here is going to be Onumi's Spider Tank on 1.2.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a bunch of tournaments use this in the past. I mean, this is a relatively well-known hybrid 3 sort of pick. The main reason for this out of anything is mostly because like it's just like not as mini jag heavy. It's more like
Yes.
flam control is I think the main thing about this map.
It's a Braxis without the mini jacks, and I mean it's made by Braxis, obviously, but there are a couple of really awkward patterns, and we'll get to those when it comes to like the second half-ish. But this starts off pretty slow, but you'll see pretty quickly that this is largely about burst LN control, and that control is super difficult to hold on to.
Absolutely, and honestly, it's funny to say because I think last pool's hybrid 3 was probably the hardest hybrid. Now, this one might be the easiest some players might find, but the tricky part about it will be the accuracy sort of component, controlling the flams and the LN releases. But yeah, I mean, from playtester feedback, this is the easiest hybrid somehow.
I actually don't doubt that it's the easiest. It's certainly physically the easiest. Like, no doubt in my mind that like the physicality required for this is a lot less, but the control required compared to the others is a lot higher.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're getting this sort of like a short break section right here, and we're just gonna get right back into it in a second. I mean,
this is the section I was actually going to mention earlier, because these patterns, despite it being a break,
trills.
You got trills around the LNs that are fast enough that they play like mini jacks. Those are easy choke points on this map.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're getting back into the sort of like main like LN flam control sort of section right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And a little bit of a reprieve from the beginning section. Kind of repeats the same patterns that you saw. A little bit of a bonus here at the end of it, just to really throw you off. But like I said, physically, not that difficult. Control-wise, extremely difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, with that being said, that was our Hybrid 3. That was Spider Tank 1.2. And I guess you can go ahead and introduce the next one.
This is an interesting one. Yeah, I guess I can go ahead. But Hybrid 4, our final hybrid, the extra slot in the hybrids, going to be, once again, a little familiar for some people, but it's Seatris's Illegal Legacy, this time upgraded to 1.1x with a little bit of a nerf on the OD. But this one is going to be kind of a separation. It basically tests your ability to do both rice-focused patterns and LN-focused patterns. They're going to be mixed in every section, but the intro sections are going to be primarily tech-based with a couple of intrusive long notes, and then the ending is full long note shield-type patterns.
Yeah, and the main reason we picked this one is because of the introduction of the Hybrid 4 category. I think that to be clear, the main focus of Hybrid 4 is going to be sort of like this like less of the gluts that you'd see in Hybrid 2 and more of the mini jacks, like light mini jacks. No shields, none of that nonsense. We got like just pure like.
It's like medium tech, yeah. But in hybrid form.
Yeah, for sure. And like just sort of like LN flam, like rice flam, that kind of idea. Like more straightforward sort of like LNs. I wouldn't say this one has straightforward LNs necessarily, but the idea for hybrid 4 just kind of lends itself more towards that in general.
Yeah, and we get through this section. Last quarter is going to be primarily long note focused. We got some of those shields and gluts coming around for just this long note section. Definitely not going to be trivial, but it certainly makes sure that you're capable of handling the more control-focused long note patterns.
Yeah, the mini jacks that are on the same hand as a long note, for sure, that's something to watch out for in that section in particular.
Absolutely, but a little bit of a shorter pick, below 2 minutes for the final hybrid, and now we just have our long note maps and tiebreaker left.
Yeah, and I mean, here we go with the long notes. So long note one is going to be our just as usual our coordination pick. This is Mysterion versus Chrysler Lean. This one, I mean, it's a fairly straightforward sort of coordination pick. I would say there's not really um, much different going on here aside from the fact that we are raising the BPM quite substantially.
Yeah, definitely going to be bringing back the timing hell type maps. With a vengeance, 135 BPM, a little bit slower than you might expect just in general, but these patterns, super brutal on the density, especially of those jack patterns.
Yeah, the patterns are definitely what really makes this map. It is just the right here, the chorus here, as we're gonna see time and time again in this chart. It's like this sorts of like the flam kind of control that you have to be able to exert on this map is really difficult.
Yeah, and as you would expect, the releases are a little disjointed, even on those faster sections. You can see separated releases even on notes that are being hit at the same time, single-handedly just throwing off your ability to do this. And 7.5, a little bit forgiving compared to, average, but 7.5 is still pretty high for this type of map with how fast some of the releases have to be, controlled.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this one, it really is just sort of the idea of it really is just like the sort of just the coordination that we've come to know and love from this year and previous years as well, and just sort of the same sort of like exploration of motifs here as we get the chorus section coming back here.
Yeah, absolutely. Similar patterns from what we saw before. This one, again, on the longer side, 3.5 minutes. I think that's more expected for the long note 1 picks. They've been getting longer and longer as the pools have gotten harder. And this one's certainly going to test your ability to hold on to accuracy with that 7.5 OD on top of some really difficult release type patterns with the timing hell structure.
Yeah, I mean, these releases are not trivial in the slightest. You definitely have to constantly think about these releases as you're playing.
And here we go, last quarter, gonna transition into one more chorus left, and a little bit of a key change represents a little bit of a change in the chorus. Similar patterns, but certainly a little bit harder as well. Feels like it gets a little faster. I can't guarantee that, but definitely going to be worth
map,
noting.
It is variable in BPM slightly, but it does feel sort of steady. You definitely don't notice it as much, I think.
Yeah, I think the chorus just picks up the intensity, and the song itself, I think, definitely can have an impact, especially when the intensity increases that much.
Absolutely.
Might not actually be faster, but it sounds faster, and that's the important part.
And yeah, that was our LN coordination pick. Special thanks, Mysterion Chrysler Lean, for that one. And we can move straight on to our density pick. This is going to be Yurufua Jukai Girl by Hightex. This is on 1.1. This is also going to be relatively short. The BPM is a lot higher than you might expect, but the patterning kind of makes up for it, I would say.
Yeah, definitely a little bit on the lighter side compared to Pixel Planet from last round. But you can also see some pretty awkward patterning already out of the gate. You see a lot of 3-note inverse, in a way. Kind of. You hold down one note and then do a bunch of 3-note, 3-column patterning for a large portion of this map, especially when it comes to courses. And despite being a little lighter, that kind of structure really pushes up the difficulty.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the focus of this density chart right here. You're going to be seeing a lot of sort of like one column hold, and then the other columns are kind of just doing their own thing. You're going to see a lot of that in this chart. And that's really what gives this chart so much of its difficulty.
Yeah, you can also see some interesting kind of repeated patterns when it comes to that chorus, especially like in the repeated vocal sounds. You see the same finger being, or same note being held down each time that comes around, and because it's repeated immediately, it feels like that's happening for the whole of it. So it almost plays like 3-note inverse for like entire 2 measures at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the map just keeps. I mean, it kind of introduces the same idea in the second half. As always, we're getting a sort of return of the chorus here.
Yeah, like you said, a little bit on the shorter side of this map, or this song, not too lengthy, 2 minutes and 17 seconds, a little longer than last round's LN2, but we get this ending section in the last quarter that kind of repeats those same structures that we've been seeing, except extending them even longer and really making sure you pay attention to them. And a reprise of the intro coming out, just reflecting everything this map's about. Make sure this is a map that I think people are going to be either very comfortable with or not comfortable at all. I would not be good at a map like this because of the 3-note inverse.
We got a lot of mixed opinions from the playtesters, depending on, like, some of them said that this was much easier than Campanella from last year. Some of them said this was much harder. So it really just it's a matter of your skill set, really.
Yeah.
But with that being said, let's just jump into LN3, which is "I'm For You" by Patiraj. This one is
shortest map in the pool.
Yeah, it is the shortest map in the pool, but you'll see why that is, because the difficulty really makes up for it. This one is really, really weird.
Oh, yes, I do know this song. This is extremely bursty. And these patterns, not friendly. Mixes in some mini jacks and shield patterns just to throw you off. This one actually kind of reminds me of how you have to play Spider Tank, but a little bit more focused on the LN difficulty, and a little bit higher physicality even in some parts.
Yeah, and we're getting this sort of like 3-note jack sort of idea here. This motif right here is really, really tricky to handle, in my opinion. Probably the hardest part of the chart, just because of the fact that you really have to control those sorts of patterns to be able to hit them properly.
On the bright side, the 3-note jacks don't ever show up with a long note on the same hand, so you don't have to worry about that, but it is still very difficult to control.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just really, really tricky, these sorts of patterns. I mean, I just don't even have words to describe how tricky this is. Like, this is like really, really difficult to handle, in my opinion.
Yeah, the patterns in the map also quite repetitive. You see a lot of the same patterns over and over. It's the kind of map that I would expect to see Mirror on quite a bit. Despite it being pretty hand balanced, I think people are going to get mind blocked on something like this, and that's where kind of Mirror shows up to help the players out.
And yeah, that was "I'm For You" by Patiraj. And I mean, yeah, we're just gonna like, that was LN3. We're just gonna jump right into LN4. So LN4 is going to be a slightly longer pick. This is gonna be Kisaragi 1.1. And this is more of a sort of like dumpy, jump streamy sort of pick. It's in the same line as like Fatal Entanglement and Entropic Enhancement from previous years. Around a similar BPM as well. So we're just kind of seeing that sort of idea coming back.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mixture of density, but increasing the speed, lowering the actual LN density.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like really sort of picking up on that. We're getting some sort of like flams and like long jack sort of thing here. It really just kind of goes all over.
It's one of those cases where I think when maps like this start to get introduced in these tournaments, we start to see players who would normally have a lot of control over long notes start to lose it a little bit. Because the speed is at a point where you have to have control over the L. Like, it doesn't seem like you have to have that much control over the LNs. But when it gets this fast and you still have LNs that are like long enough that you can't read it as normal jump stream, things get really difficult to hold on to. And I've seen that in previous years by a lot of teams that we consider like incredibly good. I harken back to like 2023 United States, who were extremely dominant, but anytime a map like this came up, they were just not able to keep up with the other teams. And I expect that to kind of come back for a lot of teams as well. Maybe not United States this time, but just in general, seeing LN-centric teams struggle with something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, this part, we're getting into the sort of like jumping section right here. This part is really, really tricky to handle, especially on 1.1, this sort of idea of like bursty LN kind of embedded within like really dense LN. It's just like, yeah, I mean,
it is what it is. You got some bursts, got some density, and it has to go on for 3 minutes and 19 seconds. So don't have a lot of advantages when you go into something like this if you're not comfortable with it. The length is basically fighting against players who are uncomfortable with this.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just gonna get back into this sort of like ending section, like this like light LN jump stream kind of section. Honestly, we don't really get anything that's too difficult about this. We'll just like
mini jack. Hold on. That mini jack thing definitely comes out of nowhere a little bit. I didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
Also, worth noting, very high note count. I think highest note count we've seen in this tournament so far, despite only being about 3 minutes. Gonna get to around 6,600. And that means that misses are gonna be slightly less important here. They're just, or rather not important, but less score inducing, which means accuracy is going to come into play for something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that was LN4. With that being said, we're just gonna we'll do this quick. We'll get this over with, right? So this is gonna be our tiebreaker, our finals tiebreaker. It's gonna be co-fermion amplification, and this is a collab between me, Alexire, Rickon, previously known as GB Rick, Disguise, and Dargen. And this one is a really interesting lineup. So
Dargen, that's a crazy name to see in one of these.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this one, it's really hard to describe. It is very sort of... We're getting another 230 BPM tiebreaker. But seeing as it's in finals, we obviously have to ramp things up a little bit. So we're getting some crazy stuff in here.
Yeah, we're already starting to see that very fast burst. 234 BPM, the primary BPM for this. Probably equates to about 360, 370 BPM streams in that section with some lock notes to just throw in a little bit of issue. And that's just the intro section.
Yeah, I mean, this tiebreaker, it throws everything at you. We're getting this into this 3-note jack section right here.
Yeah, this is just brutal. I don't really have much else to say about it other than the brutality of this is wild.
Yeah, these patterns are really, really brutal, and we're seeing a replayer miss here. I mean, it is really just absurd.
Yes, the quad stream returns! Let's go!
Yes!
We have quad stream in the tiebreaker 2 rounds in a row. I can't believe it.
Let's go!
And then, actually pretty straightforward long note, the section compared to what we've seen in the rest of the first quarter.
It is very short, all things considered, so I mean, we're getting right into another sort of like techie hybrid section. This is, I believe, Alexire's part. This is the sort of like mini jack hybrid sort of section. I would categorize this maybe under like a hybrid 4 if you had to put it under a banner of category. But it's over pretty quickly. We're getting into this sort of like mini jacky thing here.
Yeah, a little reprieve of the intro section. We saw a section very similar to that in the intro, but still only a third of the way through. 2 minutes through, 4 minutes left, and we've already seen some insanely difficult patterning. I am waiting to see what's left of this, because if it's already this hard, I can't imagine what the ending guy is going to be looking like.
Yeah, I mean, getting this sort of like break section here. I mean, this song gives you a lot of breaks, so it's definitely something to keep in mind as you're playing through. It's not like a massive stamina fest, but I mean, we're right into this sort of like long jack section. This part is really tricky.
Yeah, definitely a little bit slower, but still having those long jacks and the quite quick burst is going to be a little bit difficult to transition in and out of.
Yeah, we're gonna get into an actual like full-on four jack section here. This is the Dargo section that I was speaking.
Always fun to see it. Unusual names, Dargent being... I mean, I'm just going to say that Dargent I'm not used to seeing in this kind of Oceania World Cup situation, but it's really good to see them joining. Same reaction I actually had to last year's quarterfinals tiebreaker with High 19 showing up.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely try to throw in a few unexpected names every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, this sort of like break section, we know what's gonna come next. We're gonna get straight into a sort of like really dense LN section, and I mean, it's coming. You just know it's coming, but you're just gonna win. So I mean, we're just gonna build up to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Break section, some slow jack patterns with a little bit of LN coordination requirement. Density for the LN starts to pick up as we hit the last quarter. Only 650,000 points through. We still have a quarter. We only have a quarter of the map left. That tells me that there's a lot going on in this ending.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this part is really, really... I mean, it's really dense, and it's also, like, it just keeps going.
I mean, like, what can you say about 234 BPM dense LN jump stream type patterns with some cheeky mini jacks thrown into the mix? Just really push up the difficulty.
And little slams in there as well.
Absolutely.
This part goes on for a real long time.
Yeah, it really does. Pretty difficult, but we still have the ending of the map left to go after the LNs come out, and the LNs continue.
There's more LNs!
There's more LNs!
Okay, I think they go away now.
And a rice burst section to finish us out with some really difficult tech patterns. And we start to slow it down a little bit, but what a tiebreaker to finish off our finals map pool. I'm really excited to see how this finals weekend goes. We've got some insane matchups. The United States and China going to be duking it out on this map pool in the winner's bracket, and we've got 4 wonderful teams fighting for that last podium spot. It's going to be a movie. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this pool, it's a wild one. It's definitely not something you'd expect from MWC probably, but I mean, we've got a lot of interesting stuff here going on, and I mean, I'm really excited to see the players go at it on this one. Top 6. I mean, this is the real deal. Like we're almost there, right? Like we're almost finding out who the top 3.
Yeah, it's been a long tournament so far. It hasn't felt long, but it's been long. We're a month and a half in, and we're finally finding out who are vying for that podium spot, for the number 1 spot. We've seen some good performances just in general, but they're going to have to bring out their A game with this incredibly difficult finals map pool next weekend to determine who is going into grand finals from the winner's side and who the loser bracket team will be to make it to that podium spot. It's going to be an exciting time. But as it stands, do you have anything left to say before we sign off for the weekend?
I got nothing left to say, but I got something to buy, if you know what I mean.
I think I have something to buy as well, and I do know what you mean, and that is a banner for my favorite team in this tournament, I've got to go to the Osu store and buy a banner for one of the 32 teams that made it to bracket stage, even if they've already been eliminated. We only have 6 left in the tournament, but all 32 are available. And as an extra bonus, if you buy the banner for the team that ends up winning the tournament, you get to keep it until next year's iteration. How does that sound, man?
Absolutely, and I can't wait to buy all 6 of the current remaining teams' banners. And when the tournament is over, I'll be like, yeah, guys, I predicted the winner. It was me all along. I knew who was going to win.
Yeah, I knew. I bought the 6 in finals, but I knew. Don't worry.
Yeah. You
One way.
know these things. Yeah.
I know these things. I'm a psychic. I got this. But
Absolutely.
One way or another, that's going to do it for us for the Finals Map Pool. I hope you guys enjoyed the showcase, and I hope you guys come back for next weekend where we have an absolute banger of a weekend of matches coming up. We'll see you guys then.
Absolutely. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.